What is up, my peeps? Joshua Smith here with another GSD Mode podcast interview. First off, thank you so much for tuning in, for checking out the show. Your support is massively appreciated. The only reason that this show exists is because of all of your amazing support. So we truly appreciate your support. I truly appreciate your support. Make sure that you're sharing the show with as many people that you feel would benefit from the show. The goal is to always grow this show and go out there and have a big impact. Real quick though, before we jump into today's podcast, I want to plug our sponsors that make all of this possible. Our first sponsor is my personal 90-day mastery bootcamp. This is my real estate agent mentorship training program. It's a group training platform. This way it makes it extremely affordable for you. Inside this program, however, I am unpacking my entire playbook. I'm walking you through step by step everything that I do inside my real estate business, everything that I've done, everything I've learned in my 12-plus year career with selling over 5,000 homes, with selling over $1 billion in real estate. And I walk you through step by step exactly what I've done, how I built what I've built, and what I'm doing today to go out there and create the success. But don't mistake the low cost for low value. This is an insanely in-depth, step-by-step program where I'm walking you through, again, step-by-step on how I go out there. My team sells 1 to 2 homes every single day in today's market, continue to grow my business year after year, and how I've been able to exit from selling, exit from actually day-to-day involvement in my real estate team, and create an epic, amazing real estate team that not only sustains but grows without my involvement. So whatever level that you're at, whether you're a brand new real estate agent, you're an individual high-producing agent that wants to expand and create a team, or if you already have an amazing team, or you're a broker owner that's looking to step up your internal training, looking to step up your systems, your processes, your tracking, make your business more predictable, this program is absolutely for anybody that's serious about leveling up inside their business. So check us out, www.90daymastery.com. Make sure you use promo code LIVEMASTERY, all one word, all together, all caps. That's going to get you the biggest discount on 90daymastery.com. You're going to see tons of testimonials on their video testimonials, what's included in the program, the future dates of the program. I do several of these every single year, so make sure to check us out and make sure to jump inside that program ASAP. My next sponsor that makes this show possible is perfectstormnow.com. If you're a real estate agent and you are looking for a lead generation machine website backed by an insanely powerful CRM system that allows you to convert your leads to appointments at the highest possible level, manage all your tasks, make sure that you're effective and efficient as you possibly can be inside your business, transaction management component, all of that stuff. It is hands down by far the most effective and affordable real estate website and CRM program that exists out there in the industry. It's what I use to go out there and sell 650 plus homes every single year, and the system is gnarly. If you're signing up for that program, make sure to use promo code MASTERY, PSN, all caps, all one word, all together. That'll save you the $200 registration fee and get you a great discount. Our last sponsor is REO University. So I teamed up with a good buddy of mine who is the most knowledgeable dude, hands down, that I've ever met when it comes to REO properties. This guy used to work for the banks directly as an asset manager, and he developed so many of the systems that you see that asset managers and asset management firms and banks use today. This guy sold over 11,000 properties, foreclosure properties, as an asset manager. And he and I teamed up with my experience of working with over 35 banks in my career, selling thousands of REOs, plus his experience. We've created just an insane program. Again, REO University, the website is www.REO University. It's a one-time payment for $997, or you can split that up into 3 monthly payments. This is not a live boot camp like my 90-Day Mastery boot camp. This is something that you have access to instantaneously. We'll walk you through exactly how to go out there and get in with the banks. So how to get the business, but then how to service that business at the highest level, how to go out there and complete BPOs, how to complete cash for keys, how to make sure that you're insane at your valuations, how to go out there and make sure that your asset managers are winning and hitting their goals, key indicators you need to look for, and more. There's 22 in-depth, just amazing, powerful modules that will teach you how to become an REO machine inside your real estate business. Now, if you're like me, I don't want my business to ever be in a vulnerable position, right? I don't care if it's a good market, bad market. It doesn't mean that my business needs to be good or bad. My business can always be great. During a market crash, right? There's no such thing as if the market's going to crash. It's just a matter of when, right? But again, you don't need to put yourself in a vulnerable position. You can make sure that your real estate business is 100% recession proof, and go out there and, of course, generate business, do a ton of business regardless of what's happening in the marketplace. And this is exactly how you go out there and do it. And we walk you through step by step. So check us out, REOMasteryUniversity.com. You can learn more about the program, hopefully register for the program, jump on in. This price will not last long, right? We just created this product, rolled it out several months ago, and just getting in the hands of the consumer, and people are having a lot of amazing success. So again, check us out, REOMasteryUniversity.com. All right, again, you guys, thank you so much for watching this show. Thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure to share the show. Make sure to comment. Like us on YouTube. Leave some positive comments. We love hearing back from you guys, and love getting your feedback. Keep kicking ass, and let's jump on into today's interview. What is up, my peeps? Joshua Smith here with another GSD Mode podcast interview every single week. We interview top entrepreneurs, top real estate agents, top coaches, and just straight up top badasses. They're out there dominating their spaces. They're people choosing to not live a life of mediocrity, but instead to go out there and create big, amazing, epic lives for themselves, their families, as well as have a big impact on others. And today, guys, another special guest on the show. This is actually a repeat guest, second time that she's been on the show. A friend of mine, that used to be an absolute rock star real estate agent and has transitioned to become one of the top real estate coaches on the planet. And her specialty is working with teams. So working with team leaders at a very high level and helping team leaders go out there and grow and scale, systematize their business, and continue to create that success. And it's not just coaching. They have onboarding programs and so many just amazing high-level masterminds, which those of you that are watching and listening, any of you that are team leaders, you know how difficult it is to get that type of support and help out there. It becomes a whole different animal, a whole different a beast, if you will, and that's what our guests specialize in. So stoked and honored to have my friend Kathleen Black on the show. Welcome to the show again.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm excited to be back as well.
Yeah, no, this will be a lot of fun. So you guys that are watching, listen, we're going to have a link below to Kathleen's first podcast, which talks about how she got started in real estate and what her journey was and all of that. So make sure to check that out if you haven't already. It's been, gosh, time goes by so fast, but it's probably been 18 months or 2 years ago, huh?
Yeah, I think it's almost right about 2 years, but I didn't look at the date. It just feels like a while.
Yeah. That's so yeah, no, I love it. So what, we'll just pick up on where we left off, because I know you're doing so many cool things, and the team space is evolving so fast. And I shouldn't just say the team space. I mean, just real estate. Yeah, right. There's so many things and we're going to continue to see it with technology and all these different tweaks and changes. If we're not adapting, we're going to become extinct. It's just how things happen, right? So, what are some of the biggest changes that you say that you had seen, let's just say in the last 2 years, when it applies to real estate teams, that those that are most successful in the space, have applied and transitioned and changed? Like, what are some of those bigger changes that you've seen?
Wow. I mean, there's so many. I mean, I think in our networks across, like, we've seen a transition from, those who were really trying to build teams and get a foundation in the team space have evolved into what I call, they're more like organizational models now. Like, they've built their foundations, they're scaling, they're going to multi-location. I mean, it's a completely different ballgame for the people who really actually built out a foundation of systems, right? Versus kind of the idea of team of, okay, those I always say there's certain stages in team building that are really messy. And I feel like if you don't know you're in the messy stage, you often get stuck and it's painful. So we have a lot of teams kind of in that smaller, messy stage going, I don't get it, why I'm still stuck here. And then the ones who have broken through, like just amazing, phenomenal growth, right? Like the numbers that we see with teams able to achieve now. I mean, it blows my mind, right? Even working with them and watching what they've achieved, for sure. I think that's a big one. I think lead generation in some cases, it's funny, technology is so available, but there's more competition now for things like online and pay-per-click, and that's huge for teams. And I think the other thing for us, we've had a really cool scenario because we've shifted, like I'm in Toronto, we're the GTA, we have clients across North, like US and Canada, but because we have a lot of core in the GTA, we went from a really strong seller's market and shifted neutral into more so going towards or in a buyer's market. So we've really seen the ability of teams to kind of do, I would say, to pivot, like quick switches into mindset, systems. And what I've noticed is just if they already have the tools, it's a lot quicker and we don't see the same loss. And I know I'm saying 10 million things, but there's always so much going on. I think the other big thing though, like for anyone watching because we don't only work with teams, but I think the big thing is that we do so many consult calls. And until recently, I did almost all of them myself. I still do all the 100+ teams myself, the team leaders. But I started to get this influx of consult calls from individual agents who had built their business on repeat and referral. And with the market change, like they weren't even getting a chance to compete. And if they were competing, they hadn't really structured their business to compete. So they were saying, I've never invested in this side of it, right? In the systems and the presentations and the scripts, like this isn't how I built my business. And now like, I'm almost like, if I don't change, I'm going to be out of the business. So that was really interesting for me to see that even some top 1% people coming back going, hey, like, the teams are flying by us and we were always on the top. And if I don't get one, I can't even stay in this level of production, right? Top 1% level.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. Who knows what the future will hold, but it is, I could just say from, we all started somewhere, being an individual agent to being a team leader, that I am now, and have every, with our departments, full-time listing coordinators, transaction coordinators, and everything that we have dialed and the attention that each department is able to give it. There was no way I could compete as an individual agent with what we have in place right now. We just couldn't service the client in the same method and in the same way. And it is, we just kind of, that's just kind of, and there is a lot of, again, it's all speculation at this point, but that's where the industry is going. It's either like you're going to jump on a team or at some point it's going to make it so hard to compete.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I was last week, I was at Realtor Quest, which is Toronto Real Estate Board's event. It's a large conference. I can't remember if they say largest Canada or wherever the stat is. But it was interesting because they're saying, well, do individual agents have an edge? And it was kind of course, there's pros and cons to everything. I coach individual agents on how to have an edge against teams. Like there's both sides of it. But I think end of the day, like you can be the best individual agent there is out there and have to wear all these hats. But how do you compete with 10 people who one person's, a 10 out of 10 in marketing or an 8 out of 10 in marketing. And then somebody else is an 8 out of 10 in ISA. And somebody else, like you said, transaction coordinator and client care, like how, if they're doing it right, how can you possibly over time compete? Like it's going to be very difficult unless it's, immediate friend or family. Yeah.
Yep. So, for me personally, I would have to say, well, first off, I'll say this. And I have a lot of different businesses in a lot of different areas, and growing and creating a real estate team, hands down, by far the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. Yeah, right. Like it was like overcoming obesity, alcoholism, depression, all of that shit was so much easier than creating a real estate team. And part of that probably was I was young, I didn't have any business experience, I didn't know what I was doing, and there's some learning curves there. But it's like, okay, I can become a great real estate agent, but it almost has nothing to do with your ability of being a great team leader, and can you kind of just maybe talk about some of the things that either somebody that's wanting to become a team leader and or somebody that's maybe a struggling team leader needs to be prepared for? Like just as an example, as real estate agents, we spend so much time studying lead generation. Yeah. Right. But we spend very little time learning how to go out there and lead other people and how to set up compensation structures, to make sure that your margins don't get too thin and, like different things that we just we're just not accustomed to preparing. So how do you prepare to go out there and have that success?
Yeah, great question. I mean, I truly think team leaders, they're entrepreneurs, right? Like they're drivers, they're wanting to build something that doesn't exist. They have a vision for something. And I think the best ones are lucky because they're pulled by that vision, right? They're committed to it. They can see it. I mean, it's almost dangerous. The minute I see something, we have Summit coming up and all of a sudden I had a new vision for it. I'm like, oh yeah, I can see it. That has to happen. We're putting that into play. Because like you have, like, we all know when you're building a business, or maybe some of us, that's not true. A couple of years ago, maybe I didn't know, but when you're building a business, I mean, you have to be so committed that you're willing to move forward solo, and even when other people don't believe in you. So for us, what we try to do is look at, hey, do you have the do you know the type of team you want to have? Do you know your leadership style? Do you know your communication style? Because being a top producer is really different from being a team leader. And I find sometimes the really strong drivers, they're so busy pushing out, like they don't look for, they don't look for positive affirmation from outside. They build it inside. So all of a sudden they're leading other people who need that positive affirmation, who need that appreciation. And it's not bad that they need it, but the team leader doesn't necessarily relate to it. Right? They're like, well, what do you mean? When I got into business, like I learned how to sell and I went out there and I was out there every day. And it's a very different mentality. So for us, we try to do, think with the end in mind, like, where do you want the team to go? Where could it go? What would the margins, like you said, have to look like at that point? Like, what's the economic model? Because you can get capped really, really quickly with a broken commission structure. Like, it's something that'll cap your business and you may not even know. You may just think, I don't have enough to reinvest. I'm not making enough money as a team leader, and you get stuck. But really it could be because the compensation's off, or we're not investing, in enough marketing. So we think the team isn't working, but really if we invested more in opportunities, we might have a better return, right? So yeah, I think having that clear vision, having that commitment is important, and knowing our communication style for sure.
Yeah. Is there any different, I don't know the correct term, profile testing or different things that like you guys recommend out there? Like the two, like my favorite, at least for internal reflection, is wealth dynamics. And then we'll use the disc very heavily and our team as a whole, but to be able to identify what is your style, what brings you energy, what's your weaknesses, what's your strengths. Yeah, really your team, you want to build around that, right? To complement you. I mean, is there any certain tools that you recommend there?
Yeah, it's funny you bring up wealth dynamics. I've done that one, but I haven't brought it. I haven't even thought of bringing it to our team leaders. And I think it's an amazing resource. You're absolutely right. DISC is a big one for us. Like, we're very invested in that because we find it helps us. Like, our 3-step process is learn to know myself, learn to know others, and then live in unique abilities. So until I know my style, I'm probably going to assume everyone else is my style, or I just don't understand them whatsoever. So I need to understand that I operate a certain way. And once I do, I can then transition. Like, to this day, it's probably at least once a week. I have a team leader say to me, Kathleen, just say it to me in how you'd say it to an S, like a stable, consistent. They're like, I can't do it. Just say it a couple times and I can model you, right? I'm like, okay. And we go through it because there's those 4 quadrants, right? If you know DISC, it's just one version of personality profiling. So we find it really amazingly valuable, again, for knowing, hey, how am I naturally showing up and processing? And you know what? Maybe it's okay that other people process differently. And in fact, in some of the areas of my team, I want them to process differently. Because again, as a team leader, if you are a driver, it's really easy to kind of bulldoze over some of the key personalities that you really need to leverage on your team, that are going to give you consistency, and they're going to take away that chaos and give you those systems so you can leverage while you're out doing other things in building, right? So that's one of the big ones that we use. We also use, we're heavily invested, like NLP is big. I really believe in neurolinguistic programming. We spend a lot of time and resources bringing that into our coaching company, as well as, events and training, things like that. So we use learning styles too, which was amazing because we figured out, you do a test to figure out, are you visual, are you auditory, are you kinesthetic, which is like hands-on or very intuitive, feeling-based, or are you auditory digital, which those of us, which I am, auditory digital is like encyclopedia. Like, you have to tell me all the details. I need the whole system. I got to see how it all connects. It's always holistic. There's no such thing as an isolated matter. And it's great to know it because then we can see it with our clients and with our team members and understand who's going to bring different viewpoints. Like in a team meeting, it's amazing to see the visuals, like jump on board the minute they can see it, like, yeah, run with it. And then you've got the auditory digitals going, but how's this going to play out? And is it efficient? And what's the end game? And let's actually do the research here, right? So if you have everybody, it's perfect. But if you don't understand it, you just want to, you're going to have a fight on your hands typically.
Yeah.
Disagreement. Yeah.
Yep. No, I love it. So, one of the things that I think that's so cool that you do, number one, I think it's awesome that you coach non-team leaders, but they're top producers that are probably wanting to become teams. And it's so cool that you've gotten very specific into this niche, because it just doesn't seem to exist out there, right? I mean, in the coaching space. And again, as you become a team leader, as you said, you're not a realtor now, you're an entrepreneur. Like, being successful as a realtor is just like the ante in the game. That's the expected. Now it's like all this other stuff that becomes a challenge. And one of the services that you guys do that I think is amazing is the onboarding, right? Because, man, I mean, that is, it's number one, it's difficult to do, right? And a lot of times I see so many team leaders that just take such a huge step back, because now they're spending so much time trying to onboard that they take their foot off the accelerator, the things they need to be doing, and they take such a huge step back. And a lot, when that step back, it's not that they just take a step back. And I don't know this stat, you probably know better than I do, but it seems like the team failure rate is higher than the individual agent failure rate of those that try to create a team, but then have to retract because they just can't pull it off.
Yeah, for sure. And on top of that, we looked at the stats at one point too for agents who come into the industry and leave versus agents who come into teams, leave the team, but stay in the industry. They're more likely to stay in the industry, right? Because the team's going to train them and give a certain mentality. But yeah, I think it's like anything else. I mean, you're right. Not all team leaders love training or have the patience to train. Like, I've been coaching like 10 years now, and I'm the first one to say there are many circumstances now where I relate to team leaders where I'm not the right coach for that person because I just want to get them there. And I get it. Like, to me, it feels like too much of a slowdown, and they're impatient, I'm impatient. It's not a good combination, right? So how do you leverage, like, whether it doesn't have to be us, like, I'm not sales pitch, I just want to make sure, but like, whether it's anyone, like, you find a trainer, what's your time worth, right? As a team leader to be able to leverage that. Are you okay?
Yeah, no, sorry.
No, I'm just making sure. Yeah, I think it's like any entrepreneur, any business owner, end of the day, you have to look at, there's some things I love to do in my business. I love to write articles. I love to do videos. We got to the point where it became a burden, and it was painful for me because we did all this content, and I had to look, well, who can write like me? Who can I feel like can do that? Now it's a joy to hand that off. And I think it's the same thing with onboarding and training. It's very time intensive. It's a specialty to know all the little nuances that you want somebody to come on board with. I had lunch with an agent who I did her onboarding several years ago, and she actually broke the record for number of deals first year on that team. She doubled it. She did amazing. It was a brand new onboarding program. But the reason that I'm telling you this, what was it? There was a point that I was getting to with her. Oh, the reason I'm telling you this is that she started to mentor on that same team, and they changed their training approach. And what was really interesting was that they trained the words, right? They trained the scripts, they trained the presentation. They said, you have to know this, you have to use your database like this, but they stopped training the nuances, the belief, the mindset, right? The perspective of it. And she said for her, it took her months to get them into that mindset of how to actually apply it. Right? So it's not just, hey, go learn the words. It's creating how you want them to look at the industry and how you want them to approach clients and play your values out. I mean, that's 100 times more important than handing someone a script, right? Like, you probably know just as well as I, because I'm sure you have lots of experience in this, that, I said, I can hand out our script book to hundreds of thousands of people. Like, the likelihood that they're going to apply it the same way we do, they're going to have, the same tonality, the same pace, like, slim to none. Like, almost always people are like, oh, I'm using your script and we'll role play. I'm like, I don't know what script that is. That's not what we're using, but they think it is with sincerity, like it's that perspective. So I think it's just, what is it going to cost you to give leads to somebody who doesn't have the tools to convert them? And what is it going to do to their confidence versus setting somebody up completely for success and then saying, hey, now I'm willing to invest. Now you have some skin in the game. You've shown up, you've learned these things, you've shown up and tested them. Now I'm going to, full out, I'm going to trust you and get the heck out of your way and let you do your thing, because realtors are, they want to build their own business and be independent also, I fully believe.
Yeah. Well, it's not just the onboarding, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's not just for agents. I mean, it's assistants, admin, it's ISAs.
Sure.
right? Which I know is kind of a big thing. I mean, it has been for years, but it's definitely gaining momentum in the industry.
Yeah, I mean, the ISA thing's another one that it seems, I know the pain of it being like, oh, it's so easy. I'm just going to have somebody call. No problem, right? I'm just going to put them on the phone. Like I get it. It doesn't usually play out that way because I always say like the big gains are the margins, right? The big teams are looking at small little percentage increases. It's not the big obvious stuff that's going to get you the win in an ISA department. It's all the little techniques that they're doing all the time, I believe. And the experience, and they want somebody to bounce that off of as well. Yeah, ISA is a really important role to do right and really hard to do right. As again, I'm sure you have lots of experience. I don't know if you find the same thing.
Yeah. No, it's I'm 2 years into an ISA department, and and experimenting with different models, and
sure.
Yes, the margins are good there, right? However, it's slow to grow, right? I mean, to get a new ISA on, to really get them rock and roll, I mean, it can take about 6 months to really, by the time you're training them and start, getting your ROI, if you will, where you want it to be. Every time you bring on a new agent, it's at least 3 or 4 months. Mm-hmm. So the scalability and then again, it's just so much more to track. And yeah, it becomes, I mean, if you don't know what you're doing, you can get screwed up very quickly, lose a lot of money very quickly.
Yeah, well, yeah, because you're paying them to be there for sure. Like I think best case scenario, we can have somebody on the phones, ISA 3 to 4 weeks, but they're with older leads. Like we're doing some cleanup. We're not giving them, the main brand new lead sources. That's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So, because I mean, this is something that I get hit on at least 2-3 times a day between the podcasts and my programs. But it's about ISAs, right? And I get why it's so lucrative, because it's the thing that agents hate the most, right? In most cases. How do you know if you have a good ISA? Like, because again, a question I get all the time is how many appointments should they be setting, a day or a month? And I guess that also determines on, are they outbound prospecting when it expires at FSBOs? Or are they, you supplying them leads? So I'm sure there's a lot of different factors that play into it. But how do you know if you got somebody good or if you got somebody that's not good?
Well, I think it's the easiest way to know is to have a formula that is in place, right? So I live for that because, I mean, to run a coaching company, you have to be a bit of an idealist. I always say I've recovered. I'm not a perfectionist, but I still am an idealist that I like to know, what's the top benchmark, right? What's the average benchmark? What's the low benchmark? And that helps me immensely because I find it's amazing how people will raise to expectations and they'll adjust, and they'll also let you coach them to get to those expectations if they know they're off a little bit. And I personally want to support people to be successful, right? We always want them to be. So for us, yeah, it's the different formulas. Like I find it's really important with ISA, like sometimes we're mixing in, like you said, we're calling FSBOs, we're calling just listed, just sold, farming. And then we've got actual like paid leads coming in, whether it's social media, pay-per-click, whatever you're dealing with, or warmer off of your website. We tend to work more with the colder, like online leads with ISA in our system. But whatever it is, like sometimes I have scenarios where, we're spending 3/4 of the day or half the day doing the just listed, just sold in the farming, and we're booking next to nothing. And we're spending less than half of the day dealing with the new leads. The formula works, it's consistent, it's in place. And it's like, well, why are we still doing this? And it's just like, well, this is what we do. We'll always look at the formula, because if you replaced it and had that ISA, and this is just an example, your ISA may do great and just listed, just sold. I'm not, I find it's a little bit more difficult, but that's another story. But if you get them really good and they have that formula for success, that's when it's okay. Let's double that. Like, let's make sure we're always measuring where are the majority of our appointments coming from, which source, how much time are we spending? Because then we can do all those little nuances. So to me, first of all, they're booking appointments. I mean, all these years working with people, I still don't understand how some people can get on the phones like 15 hours a week and not book a single appointment. And I just, I have them start to tape calls because it's hard to even fathom it. Like it's hard to even understand how painful that must be for them, let alone looking at the tracking. So I find, great ISA is going to get on, they're going to book appointments. If they're a strong D, they're going to book too many appointments and almost none of them will show up. And then they'll come around and we'll work on being a little softer, listen a little more, build a little bit more rapport. And then we can get them in a good place. Whereas, our personalities, our I mixed with S's, I's are going to have a book a little bit less, but more of them will show up. S's are going to pull a lot more business from follow-up. So there's pros and cons. I find when you know the strengths based on the personality, you can really support and train, because an S can book a lot of new appointments too. They just have to see how they're approaching it, right? So I look at it that way. I mean, are they scared of the phone? Are they consistent? Are they open, like growth mindset? Do they always want to get better? Are they open to getting better? And the other thing I find, with everything, it's more the structure of your ISA department than it is your ISA. You can take someone who wants to be an ISA and put them into a brand new team who doesn't have an ISA. They don't have any systems. They don't have any protocol for it. And the ISA is trying to figure it out, and they're humans. They're going to get stuck in certain habits. Then they're going to defend those habits, even if it's not working, right? So that same ISA, put them on a team who says, this is how we do it. This is why. These are the results. They're going to perform much stronger. So, I think we look at our environment first personally, but then, yeah, some people just aren't cut out to be ISA for sure.
Yep. So, you kind of talked about with the disc there, some traits that you're looking for in an ISA.
Yeah.
Like what would you say if somebody is, and that maybe they have their system of processes set up where these are lead sources, here's what's followed, here's what this looks like, but they're now looking to bring on the first ISA. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of different variables, but what would the ideal disc score be for an ISA?
Well, this is contested across different people. In my experience, I mean, the thing is, initially I find people want the same profile as an agent. And ISAs already are most difficult hire. It's our most difficult retention. You get somebody with an agent profile, yeah, they might be great for a while. They're not going to stay there. They're not. They're going to want to move on. And eventually, when you're a new team, that sounds like a great idea. Put them in ISA. They're trained on scripts. When they're ready, they'll move out. A year, 2 years in, it doesn't sound like such a good idea anymore, because the training time and investment is really high. And then you got somebody new with those leads. So I find it's somewhere of a combination of an SI, either S or I with a little bit of D. That's like the perfect. If they have too much I, they're not going to want to sit there and, be in that room. They're going to want to be out socializing, right? And networking and building relationships. So that can be a little bit tricky. So I find a little bit higher S, lower I with a bit of D is like our perfect. Do we always find it? No. Sometimes we get that SI combination, and therefore we have a bit more stable, consistent, and that can work very well too. We don't have the D. Systems bring the D for us, right? The task results, bottom line.
Yep. Love it. So then, you're working with a lot of these, team leaders that aren't just your typical team, right? I mean, these are mega team leaders that they're now having to bring in the leadership positions, directors of operations, and really replace themselves as the team leader, if you will, to become really the CEO so they can continue to grow and expand.
Yeah.
That's something that, I've been transitioning to for the last couple of years, and that then brings a whole new element of complexities of, like just being upfront, fully transparent, honest, something that we've been battling with and are still battling with of the team is used to me showing up and hosting the meetings, getting everybody fired up. Well, now I'm trying to slide in that other person. And that becomes hard with keeping culture on pace. I mean, our culture is, I'm at the point now where I'm having to step back in, which I didn't want to do, but our culture is just diminished heavily because of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, it's, I see, and I totally hear what you're saying, because often it's the E-Myth thing, right? Like we have that driver entrepreneur, you have that manager, and you have your operators. And often who we bring in for director operations or who we bring in for a team manager are the manager, right? They're the efficiency, they're looking at the systems, they're judging the tracking, they're doing the budgeting, they're meeting with the agents for any little things that are happening. Cause sometimes, I'm not saying this with you, Joshua, but sometimes the team leaders can be a little bit intimidating or harsh, not the first person that all sales agents will go to. So, the manager might be that lighter touch who's a bit more connected, but often that team leader is that driver. And because they're leverage experts, they're naturally, usually, like you said, trying to leverage out to do other things and test the limits. And that's why I love working with team leaders, right? They want to test what's possible. But I find the same thing as what you're saying. Often we need to still figure out what's those key little, how do you say it? Like, what are the key things that are most valuable for you to still do in the team? And if it comes to the point where you can't do them, then actually looking at bringing in another driver in that role. And that can be hard. because I've seen that with teams. Actually, I've seen that, in the past company that I ran where, there's two drivers there. They have different visions for several years. The one driver's off site. I had full decision making. They're just, silent partner. But eventually, a driver is a driver. Like if they feel something's going to want to be done differently, you might have some friction, which is why I have my own coaching company now, right? So, and so do they. And that's totally great. Like that's very positive. It's what needed to happen. But I've seen the same thing in teams, where another team leader comes in, they're trying to run it and it goes very well for a while. And then if there's some friction, it's like, okay, we're both that driver mentality. So I think like you're saying, being a great communicator, being vulnerable, being open, being honest, and finding another driver who can do that, to me is the key. Because if not, like I find a lot of team leaders or drivers, they'll build it up. And if they're impatient or frustrated, they might rip it down just as quickly, right? Like those people around us are to support us to keep things growing. And I don't know about you, like I need new projects. I need new things happening. Like I feel stagnant if I don't have that. So I need the right people around me, just like most of my teams, to say, hey, it's okay. Like these things are working. Let's put the energy somewhere else so I can be directed. And luckily, like I appreciate those people around me. So I feel what you're saying. I can say we've definitely have teams who have done it really well, who have director operations, have managers, who have team leaders who have left for several years, residual income, not running the team, but they did let somebody else totally run with it. And then they held them accountable.
Yeah.
Right. It's a delicate role. It's an important role for sure.
Yeah. Awesome. Love it. So, today I know a lot of people are freaked out about, the era that we're in, but I love it. But I'm also, I'm a little bit of a web geek. I'm a system processes freak. You talked about the when we talk about the wealth dynamics, sounds like you've done it. I'm a mechanic, right? So I love all of the technology that exists and how efficient we can, like right now, even though I'm closing way more deals than I've ever closed in my career, I'm on like a third of the staff because so many of these tools allow us to just leverage, do more with less. But with that being said, it is very intimidating because there's so many systems coming out. And what are you seeing with the top teams that you work with and that you're coaching with of leveraging technology to go out there, be more effective and efficient? But also the flip side of that is the scariness of allowing that to also replace the human connection, which we can't do.
Yeah, it's so interesting because I see a lot of the big teams, like they're very, as they should be, what is the word? Like they're very slow in some ways, like they do their due diligence before they bring in that next shiny thing. Because one of the biggest ways we can get off course is, I want this and now I want this. And, like I forget what they call it, fear of missing out. One of my clients said it to me. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about, but he had an acronym. But the idea, like we do it all the time. Like, wait, what's your strategy? So what do we actually need to get that strategy? Let's leverage technology for that because we're inundated with it, right? It's moving so quickly. There's so many advances, and often just doing what we do well is going to get us more ahead than somebody trying to, implement every new technology trick out there. So I find it's very strategic, but they are definitely bringing in and leveraging it. I think it's more, if anything, ironically, harder for the individual agent or a partnership because how do you possibly stay on top of all of it? Right? How do you have the time to even know what's being released, let alone what to put into your business and, how to do it? And I find it's, you're buying all these different things. And next thing you know, it's 6 months. I've never used it once because I've been so busy and they said it would be plug and play. So I definitely see teams leveraging technology when it comes to client experience, when it comes to, firm deals to close, to make sure that concierge level service is much, much higher. We actually have specialists coming to talk about that next week at our event. That's one of the big ones I think is making a big difference. The other, and what's interesting with that one, when I initially started to talk to team leaders about it, using, a service to do that, the initial reaction was, well, why? Like, we'll send an email. Why would we need to do that? It was so interesting because, again, the more the clients are that more stable, consistent, they want things to be a process and predictable and safe. And the team leader is going, well, I don't get why they'd want that. And then you spin to, well, what does your clientele want? What are they looking for? And that's how all of a sudden I had people go, oh my gosh, that's our weak spot. We don't do any of that. Okay, let's plug in, a service that's going to help us. So yeah, and I mean, the database is, as I know you have one that you run as well. I mean, just the advances and how quickly they're changing and how much they can do for us. And, we had one that was talking about artificial intelligence again, which is great. But the problem I have with some of it is it all sounds fantastic. Like, it sounds fantastic to be able to see what my client's looking at for listings. Sounds great, except for now my dial rate per hour is going to like plummet into, a dark abyss and pit because I'm trying to look up on what everybody's doing. Or it's great to have social media flow through my database at all times, but if it's not telling me who's talking about real estate or is looking for real estate, it's another distraction. It's another time waster. So to me, like, I think it's really important to go, okay, wait a minute. Like, is this scalable? Is this going to work? What's going to get us off track? Because it's easy to get distracted.
Yeah. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's like, look, I mean, and this is just my belief system, and everybody has the right to agree or disagree, but it's like, look, there's just fundamental truths that just seem to exist out there. And when I've, talked to realtors that have been in this business 40, 50 years, to what is now, it just like, there's just certain things that don't change. The fact that we're not in the real estate business, we're in the human resource, human connection space. We're just helping facilitate their goals by assisting them, through the process. But that with the AI and like you said, with certain things, it is easy to get away from that stuff. But there are those fundamentals that it's like, that just doesn't change. Focusing on those relationships, like I get all the time, how do I automate staying in touch with my past clients? And I'm like, dude, like you don't, okay, yeah, you could do mass emails, you can have this stuff, but get on the phone every 90 days and have a call with them. Everybody wants out of that. But I'm like, dude, that is the gold. That's the, there's nothing more important, whatever it may be. But the cool part about technology is you can utilize it to allow you to be more effective and efficient at keeping those relationships alive, but never to replace them. And I think that's one thing that it seems like successful team leaders truly grasp, where a lot of the industry doesn't.
Well, for sure. And the more like, and I, in my experience, a lot of teams have really low repeat and referral. Like COI is something that a lot of teams really struggle with because they're so great at the lead generation and they have systems that they're running so efficiently that sometimes, like you said, they're so busy, like they're literally 80% of the time face-to-face with clients, and those COI touch bases can drop. And for us, you're right. Like we have some email systems like technology that we leverage that's very personalized, that we're getting great results for the whole team because the team leader sends it to the entire database, which is fantastic. But the more agents rely on text and email, the more making that personal phone call is going to be valued because there's less and less people doing it and actually just showing that you care, right? Like I think end of the day, that's still important. People can pick up on that for sure.
Yep. So, working with all these teams and seeing all these different systems, because I mean, this is one thing that is difficult because there isn't like one system that does it all, right? And like, I've been trying, I'm working with it, I've got a software company, and at some point, hopefully we can build it, but software you can only move so fast when you're developing this stuff, but it's like, man, I got to jump into this CRM, then I got to do this, and I got to, jump into 5 different Google Drive trackers and, doing this team communication management system. And I don't know if there's a way to get away from all of, balancing out of multiple systems. But with all that being said, I mean, are there some systems that you see that just really impress you that do, that you push and promote to your coaching clients that you would, recommend to others on this podcast?
That's first I'm just gonna say I feel your pain with the Google Drive and the trackers because I, like X number of teams and I've got 20 people on the call and I'm pulling up all their trackers so I can really quickly go, okay, where's my warning signs? Because you probably know once you've looked at them, you can see it very, very quickly. Yeah. Like where's my conversions off? We have a foundation, of course, within our system, we have a foundation of tracking for our ISAs, and we have a different one for field agents, and then our overall team platforms. And even then, like we're working on building them into our own hub where they'll be automated and they'll actually, work with each other and get to that next level. Because as teams grow more and more, like they want more of the data, right? Like they want the conversions for every one of their team members, like who's converting, who's asked to sale ratios higher, whose days on market's lower, who's converting. Like it's not anymore just, okay, you had a buyer, you signed it or you didn't. We really want that data for each agent as well as for the full team. So I find the same frustration. I have not found a platform that I'm happy with that gives us all the tracking. Like even my clients who are on Follow Up Boss when they first went on, and it's the number 2 I love because we can tape the calls, which I really love. For a trainer, like listening to taped calls anytime you want is just like, it's bliss. Like it's just so much easier to help and get results. I'm a big fan of I don't know if yours records calls, Josh, I'm not sure. But I just find it so invaluable. But even that, the tracking, it's not set up to the point that we track. Like we're missing some key indicators. We can't get everything. And we end up that we still use our tracking base because I believe a great tracking system brings your key indicators of your sales system and makes them visual, makes them obvious. So you can't really have, like a generic tracking if you have a set sales funnel that you're trying to reinforce. And I find for teams, you need a set sales funnel because then you can see where the breaks are, you can support, you can train, and you can have predictable results. So you're more confident to invest in marketing and lead generation, right? So for us, no, I haven't found one that can do exactly what we want. We still use our in-house tools.
Yeah. Yep. Love it. So then, when it comes to, you talked about, your KPIs and setting up KPIs and, and it's easy, you have a lot of agents that just aren't tracking, which blows my mind, but they just don't track. When I say that, I was as guilty as any agent, for the first 4 or 5 years of my career until I experienced enough pain where it became necessary. But then you discover the power and you're like, then you become a tracking freak, yes. Right? But it's also easy to kind of go, either you're not doing it, or it's also easy to kind of go to the extreme where you're tracking too much. Mm-hmm. But with those, like what I try to do on my team is there's a lot of different things that we're tracking. Mm-hmm. But we call it our big 3. Yeah, right. It's like based on all these numbers, there might be like 8 different data set points that we're tracking per that role. But we come up with like the 3 that have the biggest impact to get the result that we want. And then everybody's responsible to report their big 3 on a weekly basis. They get a scorecard, but some of these positions are tough. Like an ISA, it's like, all right, how many reach outs, conversations, and appointments set, right? Or same thing with like a recruiter. But like, let's just say like an admin, like a transaction coordinator, or these positions that might be a little bit more difficult to kind of track and develop a scorecard system. Like what are some things that you would recommend to implement there?
That's a great question. Like I find for admin or like contract coordinator, they're more process based, right? So I don't find that we would use the exact same type of tracker. The only tracker are all of our tasks up to date, right? Like if we have a goal that, a listing is always up, like we need 3 days and this is what should happen on day 1, day 2, day 3. Like if it's all automated in our database, we can go in at any time and see if any of those tasks are not complete. Most of the teams have backup checklists as well, and board some of them with all the listings coming up, so you can see exactly where everything is at for all of the listings. But because they're process and task oriented, and that's usually the strength of people in those positions, we don't track it the same. What we're tracking is the ability to stay on top of the workload on a daily or weekly basis, and the ability to communicate if we're not. Because I find for support, it can be hard to, when you're newer in the business, really hard to figure out what is timely, what is critical, because you're not seeing it the same way that a real estate agent would. So that ability to say, hey, like this is getting behind, what's the higher priority, or making sure we have that handoff to the next person. Because I think we all know what it feels like to come in the next day and something had to be done, and it admin saying, well, I left it in the book, or it was on the schedule to be done, and the other person didn't see it, and it was a really important deadline, and it's like, heads are almost flying, right? So yeah, that side of it, it's not the same tracking metrics for us that we use at all.
Yeah. Yep. No, love it. Yeah. And the reason I ask it, it's something that, we've been trying to come up with, and we have. I just don't know if they're the right ones. I mean, we're of course tracking things like you talked about, contingency dates. But then what we did is we did like 6 months of tracking based on our, like let's just say it's June 1st, beginning of the month, what's open. And then for 6 months straight, we tracked how many actually close on time, how many get scheduled the next month, and then what our closing ratio, our cancellation ratio is. And when we started tracking that was like with our A team. Like who is the best of the best as far as our support staff. And then we set that baseline, right? It's like, okay, here's your percentage that should close. Here's the percentage that, on average that might extend or cancel. And we kind of have that as you need to be at this baseline. If you dip below it, then, because it's tough because there's so many things that are out of control for them, that falls on the agent side that they might get reprimanded for something that's not their fault. So it is kind of that fine line, right?
Well, yeah. And like you said, with culture, like I find with it, the support side, it's really important that they're okay, we're here to support the sales agents. We're all a team. We're all supporting each other, because sometimes, again, the sales agents can be a little bit more dominant or perceived as pushy by the support side, and remembering, okay, this is what they're out there dealing with. Like, what things should we be doing? What things should we not be doing? And I find it's what I've found a huge success that I love, and not all teams do it. And I really give accolades to the teams that do, but spending the time actually doing, some of the same vision work, the values, the goal setting with the support side of the team. And some people do it for everyone, but a lot don't. Like, the resources really go to the field agents. And I find it so valuable, because we know that, if you're a more outgoing personality, which is typically a team leader or a sales agent, you're going to have the most blind spots. There's the most going on around you and me that we don't know about. That's just a fact. Whereas people who are more introverted, right, more detail-oriented, more consistent, they're observing and getting feedback all the time, but they're not telling us what they want or what they need or what they see. So there's so much that can get built up with that. So I find taking the time to really connect and be like, hey, what are your goals, personal and business? How do we support you as well? Like, what are your aspirations for the future, so that they don't feel like those are stagnant, dead end parts of the business. And I think we're really careful to watch, calling somebody a field agent or a partner. Like, we don't call them, buyer's agent or, licensed assistant or anything like that. Like, it's licensed client care. But on the support side, sometimes the cultures can, not on purpose at all, but kind of diminish the roles. So in the last couple of years, we've worked really hard to be like, no, like, same resources, same support, same value for all the different roles. So they really feel empowered and engaged, and not kind of like shoved in the corner of just get stuff done on time and then be quiet, right? And I don't know, I found it a really big difference with that change for us in values.
Yeah. Yeah. It was, I used to be, it's so funny because so many of the things you're saying, I'm like, yep, that, I was that guy for so long, right. And I was so focused on taking care of the people that were bringing revenue in, and then kind of neglecting, the rest, our support and not that I treat it the opposite now. But it's one of these things where, like, man, if you have a rock star support system person or a support staff person that leaves, at least for me, it's 20 times more painful than an agent. That might sound bad, but it's like, I can replace an agent, whatever. But a rock star support, it's like that's the glue, that, and it almost is two separate cultures, because you got these, hardcore driver salespeople, and then, as you said, these, high S, high C's, no I, introverted, so it's almost treating them as two different cultures, and getting very involved.
Oh yeah. And when it came back to you saying, how do you learn, like, same thing, like, how do you learn to become a great leader? I mean, as I built out, and I'm not there working on it, but I mean, I think we all realize that there's some strengths in our personality that, we can leverage. And sometimes we try to work from our weak spots, but I mean, I've learned that, it's, for example, like, I've gotten feedback over the years, like, okay, you're not, giving enough, like, good job, whatever, because my upbringing, my way I built my business was always just put your head down and get it done. Like, nobody wanted it more than me. Like, I was going to show up and get something done. So therefore I was never good at saying, hey, good job. It was more, oh, this didn't get done or this didn't get done, because if I said nothing, I'm happy. So it's learning who you need to be around. Like, if you're very entrepreneurial, very driver, like, we had our marketing coordinator here say, we're a very entrepreneurial company. Like, anyone coming in here has to understand that. Like, we're building, we're growing, we're in that place. And I think when you're a team leader building, it's okay to know that. Like, I know I need to work with quicker paced support side. I totally appreciate them, but I know that about myself. I need people who can see what's going on and talk to me really quickly, and I can trust that they see all sides of the business. And I work with team leaders who are like that. And once they figured it out, hiring was so much easier, because, like, we're trying to make something work that just doesn't work. They don't feel appreciated. There's a different pace. It's just broken. And eventually your team might get big enough where you have somebody else oversee the support side, and they might be, half your personality and half the other. And they can be that flex for you. But until then, like, I think, making sure that we see our strengths and weaknesses and we're honest and vulnerable and transparent about them. I'm really transparent with my teams, even in interviews now. I'll say, hey, how do you work in this type of environment? How do you feel about this? What do you need to be successful? What's your ideal boss, leader, because we're very collaborative. So I wouldn't say boss, but how does that all work? And also leveraging, like when you were saying, when you bring in a director of operations or a team manager, I mean, I had the experience over the last year of what happens when you bring somebody in with different values and different energy. And I was lucky to have mentors who said to me, Kathleen, there's certain values you're building your business on, and people are expecting that from the outside. And if that's not congruent, you're having a break in your business and your system. So I can relate like exactly how important it is to have that right person and that right energy kind of out there with your sales team, because they create the pace, right? They create that vibe. And if it's not the same, like sometimes they can have a completely convoluted idea of who we are as leaders. And I say it from my experience because I see all this with my clients all the time. We all go through it. Right? It's not, I'm going through it with a coaching company. They go through it with a real estate team, or you do too.
Yeah. Yep. Love it. So then, we've talked about so much when it comes to the inner workings of the team, but then you get to a point, like the one thing I guess we really haven't discussed is with a lot of these mega teams that you're working with, because a team, you're a brokerage inside a brokerage, right? I mean, you're leveraging some of the things at the brokerage, or even now we're seeing so many brokerages that, these teams that maybe broke off, create their own brokerage, but are keeping that team model, but it really becomes the same concept, right? Of the operations. It just might be different structures, different margins, but recruiting becomes a big thing, right? You're always going to have turnover rate. You're going to have, so then when it comes to, recruiting, I mean, what are some of the things, again, that some of these mega teams are doing, because it's like, I'm getting ready to hire my second recruiter. I've got, we're finalizing it on Saturday, but, just always keeping that funnel, because we know, what our retention ratio is, how quickly they're leaving, what their production is, so we know how quick we need to hire them in. So what are you seeing some that they're doing a great job on the recruiting side to continue to grow that team?
Doing a great job. I think culture leads, like success breeds success, right? And when people are doing well on your team, I think first of all, that's a calling card for other people to be interested. That being said, there's some teams who I know who do very well that people don't want to touch for recruitment because the culture isn't positive and they're not positively regarded, unfortunately, as great as the people on the team are, and they are. It's difficult, but I think it's the idea of what type of culture you're going to be part of. And the greatest team recruiters that I know are amazing at communicating the full value. They're able to switch those playing fields, and we're not talking about splits, and we're not talking about commodity, and we're not leading with that. I think that's one of the most dangerous things as a team. Why would we lead with a split or a commodity conversation when we're not playing that same field as a broker? So I don't see it as the same model. Like the teams we work with that have moved out and went on their own, it was because often they couldn't get the growth they needed with the brokerage. The brokerage wasn't supportive. It was really unfortunate. They tried to carve out space there to leave. Other ones just had a vision of having their own brokerage, right? But there's a lot more systems, controls, leverage in place. And I think to recruit into a team, we have to be able to explain a completely different model. And to me, it doesn't make sense to even try to compare them, like cast a brand new vision of everything that is being on a team, right? Like the support, the coaching, the training, the tracking, the accountability, the camaraderie, the personal development for a lot of teams is massive. The environments of excellence that they're going to push you, that it is good to have tension in environment. The fact that you can be part of something amazing and great. And I truly believe, and it was taught to me a long time ago, I don't remember where it comes from, but that powerful people are motivated by projects bigger than themselves. They don't want to be solo players. This idea that the best people aren't going to want to be on a team. The best people want to fly solo. The most powerful people know that their goals will never be able to be accomplished with just them. They're attracted to something bigger than that, and they know their unique abilities. Right? And team is the dream arena for unique ability, because I don't want to do everything. Now I've got to show up with the things I'm not good at, and that's not that fun. Sometimes I don't even know what they are. So that's not great.
Yeah. Yeah. Love it. So then, I know that, and I believe you have one coming up, but it sounds like you do a lot of these pretty frequently with your masterminds, and I love the way that you've structured it, because there's production goals to get in there and to be able to attend. And Because as real estate agents, man, we get burnt out of a lot of these conferences because same stuff over and over, and you just get to the point where there's just no value. Even if they were free, just the fact that you took that time away from your business is enough to piss you off. Where you went the opposite approach. You're like, hey, we're going to do these, but it's going to be with the elite, and it's going to be massive value. Kind of talk to us about what that looks like.
Well, it was a client who said to me at one point, in similar to what you're saying, they said, we're going to the conferences, but we feel like we're giving a lot. And they were at the point where they felt like they were giving a lot and they weren't connecting with the right people at the conferences to get things back. The people were there. They just didn't really have that forum together. And that's what started at our Ultimate Team Summit. We did the first 100 deal plus Ultimate Mastermind. It was just a session. And it was amazing because we had, I think it was 21 team leaders there, and they represented over 4,000 deals annually. Like it was billions of dollars in sales volume just in that room, which I didn't know until I sat there counting as they were talking. I was like, wait a minute, I don't realize what's going on here. I need to pay more attention, because I was just so happy that everyone was open and sharing and so nice and humble. Like I was just blown away. So I was taking it all in and having, a beautiful moment myself. But so we started to see that, and we left Ultimate Team Summit and said, you know what, like let's make an event out of it. So last year was 2 days in Niagara-on-the-Lake, which is like we were at wineries. Literally the first day of masterminding, we were in the basement in the barrel cellar. And ironically, we didn't know, but there's no cell service. And it was so fantastic because you couldn't be distracted whatsoever. And we had tours. And what's kind of cool is that we did tours that talked about, how they scaled and systemized like sparkling wines and took a totally different industry to try to get creative and motivate us. So the goal was, get out of the conference center, get out of the stuffy hotel, like let's be outside, let's move around. The second day we're at a different winery, and it was amazing just to hear the ideas and how inspired and the energy. And this year, ironically, is so weird. I've never had this happen in an event in my life, but we don't have, other than our people, we have a completely different group, and we sold out and we sold tickets right away, completely different people. And it's not as if last year wasn't successful. It was just, it's a different energy, and that energy draw different people. So we've got a lot of people who are really like, okay, we're building regardless of market shifts. We're all in there. Like we want to get every little tidbit. And the majority of the teams at this year's are doing like 200, 250, 300 deals. We had about 45 people apply to get a rising star spot, which is when you're under 100 deals. One of them is at 89. They're pretty close. So it's incredible, because all the research shows us, Harvard says 95% of our successes are associations. But when I started to do research for the event, what blew my mind was it was more people from different industries, right? So they're talking about, when you're bringing forth this new product or this new service or whatever it is for you, actually talking to people not just in your industry. So this year we're bringing specialists, still kind of in real estate, but specialists in marketing, specialists in branding, specialists in culture, communication, mindset. We're branching out to say, hey, we want all these different people in the room because they have different perspectives. And I don't know, for me, I find I'm more creative when you back off a little bit from like the all day conference. And we try at our summit, but it's a different type of event.
Yeah, love it. So, where those that are watching and listening that want to attend, like where's the best place to do that at, or learn more about it?
Our website is www.ittakesa.team. So straightforward, ittakesa.team. And you can go in there and see, all of our events, our workshops, everything are posted. Like our summit's our big one for all team members, not just team leaders, like ISAs come, admin, managers, field agents, sales agents, everybody, or individual agents looking to grow. So it's a lot of fun. Like we have, 3 rooms running at all times. So, it's a labor of love. I always say, like building a team, I would not run this business if I didn't love it. My heart's in it. But it's a lot of value to attend for sure.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. And then as far as, for those that want to work with you, as a client, because with everything that you guys have in place, because I mean, maybe I'm wrong. You probably know better than I would with knowing, your competitors out there, but I don't know of anybody out there that does what you guys do. And I'm sitting there like every time we talk and I listen to everything you're doing, I'm like, man, I mean, it's theory, but I have to imagine if I would have connected with you when I started my team, you probably could have shaved off 5 years of just the pain, the suffering, the learning curves I had to go through, which would put me that much more successful today. And because it is such a difficult process, and I don't think team leaders truly understand that. And having this proven protocol, proven process that they can plug into, as well as that guidance, especially with what you do not being offered out there in the space, there's so much power in it. So with that, I mean, do they go to the same place if they want to learn more about working with you on a one-on-one level, or how does that work?
Yeah, they can, anybody can request a consult call. And we do have, we have an online training program that for some people, they use it for onboarding as well. Because I mean, me being me and liking details, like our level 1 is 27 hours, our level 2 is 27 hours. And we have brokers who use that program. Like you have to do level 1 and 2 before you can get online leads in their brokerage. So it's built to give you that mindset for conversion, which makes it great for onboarding. So for some people watching going, I'm not a big team yet. Like, I don't know if, I'd invest in coaching. Like we do have that. But if it's one-on-one coaching, yeah, we offer, of course, free consults. And it's not a sales pitch. It probably should be. I'm just going to be honest. Like I'm sure my team would really love for me to pitch a little bit more on our consult calls than I do. But it's a strategy session. Like we ask a ton of questions and really figure out, okay, where are you? How do we get you that next step? If you worked with us, this would be our approach. And then, hey, if you want to work with us, great. And if you don't, that's okay too. Totally fine.
Yep. Awesome. All right. Well, that sounds pretty damn amazing, dude. I don't know. Is there anything that we didn't hit on? I know we've been jamming for an hour now. Is there anything that, we didn't hit on that you think is critical for teams to, really make sure that they understand and know that maybe that we didn't hit on?
Yeah, no, I think you said it perfectly that, shaving off those years, like there's so much competition in the team space now, and we can't afford to take 10 years in research and development to get to level 3 of team when you can invest in it and get there in 2 years, and eventually you'll be in 1 year. And it's the same thing with onboarding, same thing with, like our team development. And I'm a big believer that the big, intellectual property is a big deal because it allows us to advance. And I'm just really excited about where teams are going. And I think some of them are carving out like a really cool little niche of what's going on in our industry away from, the big business owning real estate and things like that. So I'm excited to keep testing what's possible. And I think, yeah, people who want to test something and build something cool, probably those are the people to reach out to us. We have a lot of fun doing it. And I think that's it.
Yeah. Awesome. Love it. And those watching and listening will make it really easy on you guys. So wherever you're watching, wherever you're listening, whatever platform you're on, those links will be right below. So if you want to schedule a consult or go check out the mastermind summits there, all that is below. And as I end every podcast with these words, but information without implementation truly is the start of delusion. Information isn't power. It's taking that information, taking action on it, that allows you to create the power for you to go create the life that you want, deserve. And Kathleen shared so many amazing pieces of advice with you guys. Take something that you learned and take immediate action on it. So again, you can go out there and create the life that you want, deserve. And Kathleen, I know how busy you are, and this is, as always, it's such an honor having you on the show. Truly appreciate you taking time out of your busy to be here. And this has been a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's been a pleasure to be back. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you got it, my friend. All right, you guys, thanks again for watching and listening. We'll see you next time.